Okay, so I consider petting a dog our way of paying the dog. Now, in your case, your dog doesn't come over and demand attention, but you do pet him at other times without any structure to it, which is fine. It's good. It's healthy for us to pet dogs. There's a lot of health benefits. But for him, because he considers himself equal or peer, we want to do some things that will help him see and identify as being a follower.
Okay.
So one of the ways that I like to do this is what I call petting with a purpose.
Okay.
I consider petting a dog paying a dog. So I'm going to pay him for doing the things that I want him to do. I call these desired behaviors.
Okay.
Indy, come. Come. Now, I like to scratch a dog under its chin because when a dog is proud about what it's done, his nose is parallel to the ground or tilted upward. You've probably seen Indy with a toy or something. He's walking around, his nose in the air, feel really good about himself. Well, I want him to feel really good about himself by doing the things that I want him to do. So if I want to pet Indy right now, instead of just petting him, which there's no context, there's no benefit, Indy, what I do is I'm going to use a treat here, and I keep my hand flat.
Okay.
If you have it closed, it's not for the dog. When you have it open, it's more for the dog. So I want him to SIT. I'm not going to tell him to SIT. I'm going to use a hand movement. Sit. And then I want to scratch him under his chin. Now he's orientating his nose down because he's looking for more treats, but I want to create that head up orientation.
Okay.
So she said that was awesome, Indy. So basically, instead of petting him just because he looks cute or you want to, asking him to sit, come, or lie down is hardly asking a lot from him. But he has to change his state and earn his praise.
Okay.
Sit. Sit. Now, if he turns his head away, he's not doing it too bad, but some dogs will turn their head away while they're chewing. They're like, stop touching me. Well, like we talked about Pavlov's dog earlier, we're not always going to give him a treat. But if the second he gets a treat, we pet him under his chin at the same time, eventually those things become connected.
Okay.
Then when instead of giving him a treat, you're just scratching him under his chin, and he accepts it as a reward, and in fact thinks about it a treat when that happens. It's like there's nothing in your hand. Now I'm asking him to come to me. And see his rear leg is splayed out behind him. Shows a little bit of I don't say lack of trust. It's kind of in that family, but it's like, I don't want to get too close to you.
Oh, so he's keeping his distance.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm making the treat more enticing by lowering it. When it gets where I want him to be, then I raise it.
Oh.
And then I sit.
That was great.
So, now again, if he ever comes and nudges at you or scratches at you, then you immediately tell him to SIT, and when he does, then we can pet him.
Okay.
Or if you just want to pet him, you just say, sit. Sit. You spooked me a little bit with that quick movement.
Yeah.
Now, the other thing that you can do is, let's say he just comes over and sits in front of you, and you didn't ask him to.
Okay.
And a good way to do it, of course he's not doing it now, but if you just reach over and pet him, even though you didn't ask him to sit, he still achieves the sitting mode, and within 3 seconds if you pet him and say the word sit, that reinforces it.
Okay.
Just like anything else, practice makes purpose.
Okay.
Perfect, excuse me. Like we talked about earlier, rollerblading and learning to drive in a parking lot. You don't learn to drive on the 405 on 5 o'clock traffic, on Friday of a Memorial Day weekend. That's a horrible place to learn to drive. You want to learn in a parking lot where it's easy.
Okay.
Once you acquire a skill set there, then you move to a street where there's no cars and no traffic.
Okay.
Then you move to a street where there's cars but no traffic, and then cars that are moving slowly. So as your skill set increases, you increase the level of difficulty. Even though a dog can sit easily inside, people are like, oh, he can sit great. He knows how to sit. Well, then you take him to a rock concert, tell him to sit. That might be too much stimulus for him to deal with. So we want to practice it in gradually increasing levels of difficulty so he gets better at it. So petting with a purpose is probably the easiest thing that you can do that will have the biggest impact on the dog.
Okay.
Now, you're going to catch yourself reaching over to pet him just for no reason. So when you do that, if you see one of each other doing that, just say paycheck. Paycheck means you immediately stop petting the dog and then ask him to sit or lay down. Now, in some cases, if you come in and you see somebody petting the dog, just assume that they already asked the dog to sit, because sometimes you go, well, I did make him sit, now I'm petting him for sitting. Yeah. So if you only see the dog walk by and the person pets without asking for something, then we say paycheck. That person immediately stops petting, gives the dog a command, When the dog does the command, then we reinforce it with a reward.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Indy, sit. Sit. Good job, buddy.